Hello everyone, this is Dr. P. Mary Anupama, Head of the Department of Biochemistry, St. Joseph's College for Women, here with the topic Synapse and Types of Synapse. The contents that we'll be dealing with is the basic introduction to synapse, the structure of synapse, then synaptic transmission, followed by we have the two types of synapse, that is electrical and chemical synapse, and the differences between the electrical and the chemical synapses will be dealt. What is a synapse? A synapse, it's a specialized junction which is found between two neurons or between a neuron and an effector cell such as a muscle or a gland. It is the site where nerve impulses are transmitted from one cell to another. Unlike other cell connections in the body, there is no direct physical connection or physical continuity between the communicating cells. Instead, they are separated by a small gap which allows controlled and directional transmission of the signals. These gaps, we call them as the synaptic clefts. These synapses, they are essential for controlled coordination, integration, and regulation of the signal transmission in the nervous system. Structure of synapse. The synapse, it is composed of three main structural components. We have the presynaptic cell, a postsynaptic cell, and the synaptic cleft. The first component is the presynaptic cell. So the presynaptic cell is the neuron that sends the signals. Its axon terminal, it expands like a bulb, and this is called as the synaptic knob or the terminal button. This region, it consists of many synaptic vesicles, and these vesicles, they store this neurotransmitter, which is the chemical substance, say for example acetylcholine. They'll be synthesized here with the help of the ATP generated by the mitochondria. The synaptic membrane also consists of what are known as voltage gated calcium channels that are very much essential. Okay, here we'll be having these voltage gated calcium channels which are essential for the signal transmission. So this part, it initiates the signal transmission. The synaptic cleft, it is the narrow gap which is present between these two cells, that is the presynaptic neuron and the postsynaptic cell. So this is actually filled with extracellular fluid, and the gap is maximum 10 to 20 nanometers wide. That's it. There is no direct cytoplasmic connections here, and it allows communication by way of the chemical signals or electrical means. The postsynaptic membrane is the one which will be receiving the signals which are transmitted across the synaptic cleft. This membrane, it could be a neuron as represented here, or it could be a muscle or even a gland. And this membrane, it has specialized receptor proteins which are the neurotransmitter receiving receptors. They'll be receiving the neurotransmitters. Okay, according to the neurotransmitter, they may be varying, and these initiate either the transmission of signal from here or the activity that is to be done. So the response will be generated according to the target cell. Say for example neuron, action potential will be generated again from here, and it is passed on to the next one. If it is a gland, the action, that is secretion of something, that will be done here. How does this synaptic transmission takes place? So you have 7 steps based on which the nerve impulse transmission occurs across the synapse in a very well coordinated way. Let us see each of the steps now. Initially, action potential which is initiated in the neuron, it reaches this terminal knob, that is the postsynaptic membrane. What happens now is, here we have specialized voltage gated calcium channels. So as the action potential reaches here, this triggers the opening of these voltage gated calcium channels at the presynaptic membrane. The calcium ion influx will take place. The calcium ions will enter the knob space. Now this influx of calcium ions, it causes the synaptic vesicles to move towards the membrane, fuse with the membrane, this presynaptic membrane, and then release the. So once the neurotransmitter is released at this synaptic cleft, okay, this will be done by exocytosis. Once this is done, the neurotransmitter diffuses through the synaptic cleft to the postsynaptic membrane. The postsynaptic membrane has receptors. So this signal, it goes and binds here. So this binding, again, it will lead to some impulses or electrical impulses or some response to be generated in the postsynaptic cell. As these bind to the receptors here, the action potential is again initiated here, and then some response is generated in the postsynaptic cell. To summarize the sequence of events, as the action potential reaches the presynaptic membrane, the voltage gated calcium channels will open, allowing influx of calcium ions. So as the calcium ions are entering inside, the synaptic vesicles which have the neurotransmitter, they move towards the membrane and they release the neurotransmitter by exocytosis, which travels along the synaptic cleft and binds with the receptors on the postsynaptic membrane. Again here you have another action potential or some electric response which is generated in the receiving cell. This is how the nerve impulse transmission takes place at the synapse. Now coming to the types of synapse, we have two types of synapse, the electrical synapse and the chemical synapse. Electrical synapse. An electrical synapse, it's a type of synaptic connection in which the nerve impulse, it is transmitted directly from one neuron to another through specialized structures which we call them as the gap junctions. The gap junctions, these consist of protein channels that create a small cytoplasmic link between these neighboring cells. And this allows ions and small molecules to pass through freely between them. As a result, the electric current flow, it also occurs very simultaneously, instantaneously from the presynaptic cell to the postsynaptic cell without the involvement of any neurotransmitters. So this type of transmission, it is extremely rapid and it does not involve any synaptic delay, making it highly efficient for quick response. These electrical synapses, these are often bidirectional, meaning that the impulses can travel in both directions between the cells. They are relatively rare in our human nervous system, but are found in special regions such as we have them in the retina, then in some regions of the brain, and in circuits that are responsible for synchronized activities like the rhythmic circuits. So their main function, it is in coordinating activities that require simultaneous activations such as the reflex action as well as the heartbeat. Chemical synapses. A chemical synapse is the most common type of synapse in our nervous system, and it involves the transmission of signals through chemical messengers, which we call them as the neurotransmitters. In this type, we have a presynaptic and a postsynaptic cell, which are separated by the gap which we have learnt it as the synaptic cleft, and there is no direct physical connection between the two cells. And here we have seen that the action potential, as it reaches the presynaptic terminal, it triggers opening of the voltage gated calcium channels, allowing calcium ions to enter into the presynaptic membrane and release neurotransmitters into the postsynaptic cleft by exocytosis. The released neurotransmitters, they bind to the receptors which are present on the postsynaptic membrane. These neurotransmitter receptors, they receive the signals and then they generate new electrical signals or response in the postsynaptic cell. The chemical synapses, these are unidirectional, ensuring that the impulse travels in one direction, that is from the presynaptic neuron to the postsynaptic cell. Although transmission is slow as compared to the electrical synapses due to the involvement of these chemical messengers or the neurotransmitters, chemical synapse, it provides sufficient advantage, such as here signal amplification will be taking place, modulation, integration, so on and so forth. They can either excite or inhibit this postsynaptic cell, which allows for complex processing of information. Chemical synapses, these are very much essential for us in activities such as in learning, in memory, behavioral problems or behavior, and even the coordination of activities. Let us summarize the difference between the electrical and chemical synapses. Transmission in electrical synapse, it is a direct electrical transmission that takes place, while here it is the neurotransmitters that are involved. The speed of conduction is very fast in electrical synapse, while here it is little slower. Synaptic delay, it is not there, while here it is present. The direction of transmission, it is bidirectional in electrical synapse, while it is unidirectional here. Occurrence of these synapses, it is rare, while chemical synapses, these are very common in our body. To summarize what we have studied, we have dealt with the topics, the structure of synapse, a detailed structure is given. Then a synaptic transmission we have seen very clearly. The steps, 7 steps, followed by types of synapse. We have dealt with the electrical synapse and the chemical synapse. Then we have seen the differences between electrical synapse as well as chemical synapse. Recommended books for further study include Guyton and Hall Textbook of Medical Physiology, Essentials of Medical Physiology by K. Sembulingam and Prema Sembulingam, or Human Anatomy and Physiology by Elaine and Merab et al. Or you can study Review of Medical Physiology by Barrett, Susan, or this is the Indian other one, Textbook of Medical Biochemistry and Physiology by M.N. Chatterjee and Rana Shinde. Thank you.